Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another live episode of Game Time here on Monday afternoon, at least on the West Coast Monday afternoon. Wherever you're listening and watching, we appreciate it madly. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by my brother there, JT. How are you, bro?
Doing good, man. Had a fun weekend and ready for the week to start. By next Monday, we'll have a winner in the finals.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then we'll enter that wasteland of Major League Baseball as we wait for the NFL and college football to start for sure. But for now, we're going to enjoy what we have. We're certainly going to talk about some NBA final stuff. Going to talk about that controversial UFC 264 match between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. Watch your ankle, literally broke his ankle. And speaking of baseball, basketball broke his ankle. And then also get into some of the Euro 2020 stuff, the final and the reaction and all of that. And then get into some Washington football team news, get into some Patriots news, get into some of NBA head coaching news as well. So we got a lot to cover in this next 90 minutes. Unfortunately, Jay and Winston are occupied. Winston took that Citizen app job, which is great. Kudos to him. So he'll probably be working on that for a little bit. And Jay's got a lot of auditions happening recently. So Jay, we're stepping away for a little bit. So Winston but we're going to keep it going up until the NFL season. Then we'll do something and we'll get everybody back on board to have some fun. So it's me, JT, for the run for today and for the foreseeable future for a little bit, and then we'll get everybody back on board for the NFL. Just want to let you all know from the beginning. But we are excited to talk about all this stuff we got going on. JT, all right, Game 3 happened. This was huge. Bucks were coming into this game at home down 2-0 to these Suns, and looked like they had been handled by these Suns despite Giannis having 40 points in Game 2. Middleton and Drew Holiday were taking a lot of heat for not really stepping up in the first two games in Phoenix, but they turned things around yesterday in Milwaukee. Another 40-plus points performance from Giannis helped, and the rest of the team showed up, and Devin Booker had another bad shooting night. 2 out of 3 games here, JT, in the finals. Booker is not looking good. Do you think Budenholzer figured some things out, or do you think this was more the team coming home, feeling the love from the Milwaukee fans, and they showed up to play?
Milwaukee has a great record just playing great at home. Middleton plays way better at home. He shoots. The hoop just looks bigger for him when he's at home. So I'm not surprised. I expected Milwaukee. There's no way they could go down 3-0 to these Suns. They were going to have, whether, sometimes you watch these matches and you're like, are they going to show up tonight? You knew they were going to have to show up. First game in Milwaukee, first finals game in Milwaukee. So I fully expected that. I mean, Giannis has just been out of control these last 2 games.
Yeah.
The difference is his supporting cast showed up in Milwaukee where they didn't show up in Game 2.
Right.
And I think that's, this is what is supposed to happen. You're supposed to take care of your home court. Suns are supposed to win at home. That's why I wasn't going to overreact to the Suns winning the first 2 games, because I'm like, that's what they should be doing.
Right.
The hard part for them now is to try to get a win in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And then if Milwaukee can survive home, that'll get them to a Game 7 in Phoenix. And once it's a Game 7, anything can happen.
Yes, absolutely.
So to me, Giannis is just playing out of his mind. I think that first game he hadn't played for a couple weeks, and it showed like he was just had to get some conditioning, get a feel for the knee. Second, third game was full Giannis. He looks close to 100%.
Yeah.
And I think going forward, Ayton was one of the big stories in this game. He got in foul trouble.
Yep.
And once he's not on the court, there's nobody that could even try to stop Giannis. And then it's just bully ball at that point. So a lot of moving pieces. It's a chess game. You can't overreact to those first 2 games, because it takes a game or 2 for the other team to kind of get a feel for the team. Yeah. And I feel like they're just setting into where they're going to be going.
Yeah, and this speaks volumes to the great players that do it in the finals, JT. I mean, Devin Booker, people have been kissing his butt, and rightfully so, all year. And then he shows up and drops a whopping 10 points in Game 3. I don't recall Michael Jordan, who was the alpha dog on his team, ever dropping 10 points in a finals game. And these are the things that you look at to compare the great ones. Even Giannis had 20 in the first game, recovering from a knee injury to keep himself somewhat on pace. And it only took 1 game in the finals to get him back to almost full-time superstar status. And he's been showing we can do here last 2 games. I mean, they were bringing it up in the press conference last night after the game that he is halfway to scoring to matching Jordan's record of scoring 40-plus points in 4 straight NBA Finals games. And, oh, by the way, that happened against the Suns when Jordan did it back, I think, in 96. So ironic that it's possibly happening again now. But you look at the score, you look at the box score here for the Suns, nobody got above 20 points. That's not going to get the job done on the road against a tough Milwaukee team. Chris Paul, 19. DeAndre Ayton, despite the foul trouble, 18 points, 9 rebounds. But you want that rebound number to be way higher than 9 if he's going to have impact in the game. And Jay Crowder had 18 points. Jay Crowder scored more points than Devin Booker. So to me, this is where I would start to get worried as a Suns fan. What is going on with Devin? Devin took responsibility last night in the post-game press conference that he wasn't playing well. He didn't step up to the plate, didn't do what needed to be done. But, at some point, speaking is good, but scoring is better. What do you think is going on here with Devin Booker? Is it a confidence issue? Are they playing really good defense on him? What do you think the issue is?
I think part of it is, experience is a big part of it. This is his first time on a big stage like this ever. Yeah. This is the deepest they ever made into the finals outside of the bubble. So I do think a lot of that has to do with it. It could be part mental, part with the defense is throwing at him. I just think this is good for him in the long run. He needs to go through stuff like this to become a better player. To say what's wrong, I don't know. That's a problem with these high volume offensive players. They could disappear for a day or two or a game or two. Yeah. And it just appeals if you're feeling it that day. Obviously he feels it most days. That's what makes him an all-star.
Yeah, it's true.
But I mean, there's going to be days where sometimes your highest score just isn't there. It happens to all the players, honestly. Every player. Middleton has games where he just doesn't show up. Then there's games where he's dropping 40. Yeah. I think Devin Booker, it's hard to ask him to put up huge numbers in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
He's capable of it because he's that good of a player.
Right.
But for his first time in the finals in Milwaukee, it's hard to ask a player to do that. Chris Paul is the kind of player you're going to look at because he's a veteran. He's been there before. That's what he did in the last series. Chris Paul played amazing on the road. Yeah. It didn't really seem to matter where he was playing. I think this is just development for Booker, and I think, whether the Suns win or not, this is great for him because it's just going to make him a better player moving forward.
Yeah, the Bucks closed out the first half on a 30-9 run after they were down 36-30 in the second quarter. My friend texted me and he's like, "This is a sweep. This is going to be a damn sweep." And then all of a sudden they're up by 15 by the end of halftime. And by the time they got to halftime, and that was essential for helping out what they were trying to do here to turn around the narrative about themselves in the NBA Finals, because they had looked really listless in the first 2 games against the Suns. Middleton, Drew Holiday, all of them, it looked like they couldn't get the job done when called upon. And now they see that at least for one game in Milwaukee, they certainly got it done here. You look at Middleton, 18 points, 6 assists, 1 steal, 7 rebounds. Drew Holiday, well, a lot of people come after 21 points, 9 assists. They were shooting well from 3-point range. They were shooting well from the free throw line. Giannis was 13 of 17, and you could hack a Giannis, but when he's making 13 out of 17, it kind of shoots that strategy in the foot. So they stepped up to the plate here, it seems like, and went on these 2 colossal runs in the third quarter and the end of the second quarter that really kind of buried the Suns, and it didn't make it possible for them to come back in this game fully, because I think they got to within 4 at some point in the second half, but then immediately fell right back down the hill. So, I mean, do you think the Suns bounce back, or do you think this is a home series? Like, whoever's at home is going to win every game up until we get to Game 7. Is that what you sense now from these first 3 games?
Kind of. Here's the thing. Last year with the bubble, I kept saying how big of a deal it was that there was no home court advantage. Yeah, they were playing on the mutual. Some people were like, "Oh, that makes it more." But to me, playoff basketball is about how you perform on the road, because they make a difference. You watch some of these, you watch these games, and the way these fans are going in Milwaukee and Phoenix, they're out of control, man. And there's no way that doesn't affect the way the players play. Right. It gives them momentum. And if you're a visiting team, it drains you a little bit just to be. You feel like you're in this hostile environment where everyone's cheering every time you miss a shot or miss a block. So I just feel like the home field advantage is huge here. Both teams play great at home. Phoenix, I think, actually has showed more than Milwaukee that they're better on. They could play good on the road. Whereas Milwaukee has shown that they play much better at home.
Right.
The question is, can the Suns steal one of these home games, one of these away games, which I think is obviously possible. But I also, at the same time, Milwaukee could easily take care of home. If both teams take care of home, we'll get a Game 7 in Phoenix. And like I said, if you're Milwaukee, that's where you kind of want to get to, because Game 7, anything could happen. The nerves are up to 1,000%. People make mistakes in Game 7s because of the pressure. So to me, obviously, if they can win one in Phoenix, it could happen too. Yeah. Somebody in the comments said earlier, a series doesn't really start until you lose at home. Scott said that in the comments, and I kind of agree. That's when the panic button comes in. Second you lose at home court advantage, that's when you really start to worry. And that's why, when the Suns won the first two, I wasn't worried because, one, they're at home. They should be winning. Right. Two, Milwaukee kept those games in distance. They were blowouts. They were never blowouts. They were always like right there, and they were playing pretty bad. Yeah. So if I'm Milwaukee, I'm feeling like we have a good shot of still winning this. If I'm Phoenix, you got to step it up a little bit, especially Devin Booker.
Yeah, Giannis was able to dominate inside during Game 3. 14 of his made field goals came within 5 feet of the basket. And that made him the only player in the past 25 years to score at least 30 points without making a shot outside of the 5 feet area there around the basket. That's pretty incredible when you look at what he was able to do there and just kind of put it in motion. But I mean, for all the talk now and all the positive conversation we're having about the finals, if you're Milwaukee, you feel like you're back in this thing. I mean, if the Suns steal one tomorrow, Wednesday night, I think they're playing the next game. If the Suns steal one, then they're back in a position where they could win the title at home right in next game, in the 5th game of the series, and win it 4-1. So, I mean, if Devin Booker shows up and Chris Paul gets angry and starts doing his Chris Paul things that he can do, that old man ball that he likes to do, I wonder if the Bucks will be unsettled or thrown off by it, and then they start questioning themselves. So for all this talk about Giannis, it's Middleton and Drew Holiday that are really the most important components here in this situation.
Yeah, they got to step it up. He needs his role players. Like, Giannis is going to get most of the attention, so you're going to get open shots. You got to hit them. You got to hit those shots. And for me, like, again, I agree. I think if the Suns take one of these games, they're really in trouble. I don't think they could go win like 3 in a row after that. So they really need to take care of home court advantage. This was, it was a little worrisome when they were like down 6, like you said early on. Yeah. Because you would think at home you'd come out of the gate, explosion out of the gate, but it took them a while to get going, and hopefully that's not the case the next game. I hope they win the next couple games because I want this to be a good series. I don't want it to be, one win for Milwaukee. I want that Game 7. I would love to see a Game 7 finals. But again, the 3-point is also another big deal. And I've always said this, like, both of these teams shoot really good 3-pointer percentages. And the team that I think is going to shoot better throughout the series is the team who's going to win, because sometimes they rely on it a little too much, both these teams. Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw that last night or yesterday. It felt like Milwaukee was more confident from the 3-point range than anybody on the Suns. And I mean, even Connaughton got himself a 3-pointer, for God's sake. So, they were in the position now where they feel confident. But Milwaukee's been so inconsistent with their, secondary players, or their, if you want to argue Middleton is a 1B to Giannis is 1A, they've been inconsistent. So one good game doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to 3 or 4 good games that'll put them in position to win this title. So all this great talk we're doing about Giannis and analysis and breakdown and all this kind of stuff, and they were really relaxed, apparently down 0-2 because of what happened with Brooklyn, and they just felt confident. But if the Suns come out even more determined, and you look at the foul situation too, JT, I mean, Monty Williams said with one sentence, he said, "I'm not going to get into the foul situation, but we shot 16 foul shots, and one of their guys had 17 free throws, and that was Giannis." Wow. So he's saying, like, there is a disparity, but it's the same thing Budenholzer did after Game 2 or Game 1, where he was complaining about the foul. So clearly they called the tighter game against Phoenix a little bit here, and DeAndre got himself in foul trouble, which is why he wasn't able to have a little more of a influence on the game. So if the refs loosen up a little bit going into Game 4, and by the way, I forget the ref's name that played that ref the call, but Scott Foster, I think his name is. Yeah. He's apparently now Chris Paul is 0-12 in games with Chris Foster in the playoffs has called the games for him as a referee, and that should tell you something right there.
I find that very interesting. I think one thing you could take away from these first 3 games, that Giannis is the most consistent and he is the best player on the floor whenever he's out there.
Yeah,
I think Chris Paul is great. He's good. Devin Booker could turn it on, but every time Giannis is on the floor, he dominates. Yeah, I don't think there's any. I think if you're looking at both teams, he is by far the best player out of both teams.
Oh yeah,
and he's carrying the Milwaukee Bucks right now on his shoulders. Yeah. So in a lot of ways, if you're Milwaukee, we have the best player in this series.
Yeah,
if he could continue to do what he's doing, 40 points a game and rebounds and blocks. If he could continue this, he could carry this team to a championship. And if he does, I think he's going to get a lot of respect from veterans and some of the great basketball players out there, because really it's a lot. It's not. This is something that's kind of rare. I was listening to a podcast about talking about the games. They're saying like he's up there with like Kareem, Jerry West, Shaq, LeBron are some of the few players that are doing what he's doing, the numbers that he's taking. It's insane.
Yeah. Here it is. Overall points scored in the NBA Finals. The Bucks have 333 points. The Suns 336. Giannis has 103 of their 333 points. That tells you right now how important he is to this team. And that's only game 3. We only just finished game 3, and that tells you right there the kind of motivation he has. And you have to wonder, if Giannis had not played, this probably would be a sweep. This probably would have been genuinely a sweep going into the situation. Because I think everyone's like, oh, everyone's all over Giannis, heaping praise, all the sports writers today. But the truth is, the defense is going to collapse on him. He's going to get his points. But if Middleton and Holiday and all these other guys, Connaughton, his brother, if those guys aren't hitting shots, then it's not going to matter. As we saw in game 2, it's not going to matter. And so I think that's going to be really interesting to see going into game 4, because I expect Monty Williams is going to make some defensive adjustments. He's going to make some moves here to try to maybe take Middleton out of the game. Let Giannis get his points, but find a way to take Middleton or Holiday out of the game in some way, so that affects the overall scoreline for the Bucks and maybe gives you an opportunity to win, because the Suns love to hang around, man. Like even in this game, as I said, 74-70, some point in the third or fourth quarter, they were close. And then of course the Bucks went on their run. So what were you saying?
It's just it's crazy how much Giannis is just dominating, but to me, it's a consistency. Like even on a bad night, he's going to score 20 plus. Whereas Devin Booker has disappeared these last 2 games. You got to be worried if you're Phoenix, but also this next game Booker could go off. But at the same time, Middleton might go off. So I feel like every one of these series this year, Middleton has one game where he scores 40 points and goes absolutely nuts, and he can't miss. They need some of those players to catch fire just for a short amount of time during these games to take some of the pressure off Giannis.
Yeah. Because remember, he's coming off that knee injury. You start relying on that guy. If you start expecting 40 points from this guy every night, he's going to get him injured. You don't want to see that, but you're going to get him injured. And one last stat before we move on here: players with a 40-10-5 stat line in a finals game since 2000. Only 5 players have ever done it. Shaq twice, LeBron 5 times, Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, and Giannis. That's it. So that tells you, exactly. And that tells you how much power that guy has. Thank you all so much for joining us here on Game Time. I appreciate it, Matt. Let's be in JT hanging out here for the next 90 minutes. It's only a 2-person show. I can't imagine it'll go 2 hours, but please do us a favor. Hit that like button. And if you're watching later, leave a comment for sure. And send some support in for the show. The Super Chats and the Streamlabs are open. You see the address above JTE's head. It's also in the description of this chat. I'm going to put it there in description of the video. I'm going to put it in the chat as well as we go forward. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Game 4 happening here in the next few days. We'll see how they respond. The Suns do, or if Milwaukee just comes out and just bosses the game all over the place. Because clearly the Suns were hanging around and hanging around and hanging around. They just eventually got choked out in game 3. Will they be able to come back in game 2? We shall see. Or game 4, we shall see. JT, just making a quick sideline news story here. Just heard this about an hour ago. Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, passed away. One of the great wrestlers from the 1980s. One of my favorite heels. I remember when him and Hogan were baby faces. And it was a whole storyline that Paul Orndorff turned heel when he couldn't find Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was working out. He couldn't get Hulk Hogan to come to the phone. And that really just pissed off Paul Orndorff, and he became a heel against Hogan. And he's a guy who was, who leaves an incredible legacy. Those tights with the Mr. Wonderful across them. A great high flyer as well from the top rope with his moves. Was usually paired with Roddy Piper. A lot of rumors that they actually had a real fight coming out of a match one time down the aisle that was legitimate fights. But he had been suffering with dementia for the last few months. And his son had posted a video of him, apparently a month ago or so, a video of him, and he was like drinking beer, seemed pretty lucid. But sadly, he passed away earlier today. Any thoughts on Paul Orndorff? Any remembrances? Was he past your time?
Yeah, he was a little past my time. Okay. I've heard of the name before, but I wasn't that familiar with him. But, I'm just glad he got to live a somewhat long, healthy life. A lot of these wrestlers die so young.
Yeah.
That dementia is a tough disease, but I'm glad he got to, I'm just glad he didn't die a young man like a lot of these wrestlers do, and he actually made it to an older age.
Yeah, and it's absolutely a great point you make, JT. He was 71. That's not bad for wrestling years. Sadly,
for wrestling years, that's good.
Yeah, you're right about that. Hulk Hogan tweeted out. He said, "Just got slammed with the Paul Orndorff news. R.I.P. My brother. Love you and thank you for always making me fight for everything in our matches. Heaven just got even more wonderful. Love you for life, Hulk Hogan." Pretty cool moment there. And his son said most of you remember him for his physique. Many remember his intensity. But if I could only get you to understand and see his heart, he will always be Papa, and Daddy at home. And as much as any of you hated him as a wrestler, he absolutely loved you for it. He was an amazing father that showed me more love than I ever deserved. I love you, Daddy, is how he ended it. And it's just unfortunate to see him pass through dementia. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching or have experienced that with their own family members, and it's a tough situation. So RIP to Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Thanks for leaving an incredible legacy, and we'll all see you on the flip side, brother man. Thank you so much for all you do. All right. Well, or you did, rather. All right, JT, let's move on here to some more stories. Where are we at here? Let's move on to some more stories here. Let's talk about a little Euro action. I know you might want to go to sleep on this, but you tweeted out about this,
I
JT.
did.
So
I tuned in.
So now,
I did. I mean, here's the thing. If Twitter makes enough of a fuss,
yes,
I will see what's going on. And I'm looking at my Twitter and everyone's talking about it. And I'm like, all right, it's going to penalty kicks. All right, I'm going to tune in for this. So I came in, not the very beginning of the penalty kicks, but towards the end. And my tweet was just a joke around because people are taking it so seriously, which I understand. My sister is a huge soccer fan. And I went to Pasadena the day before to watch the Argentina-Brazil game with them.
Oh, nice. The Copa America final. Yeah.
Copa America, which was actually pretty interesting. And I was a little more invested in because of Messi never winning a Copa. Yeah. And actually getting that win, like you could tell it meant a lot to him. Right. Unfortunately, my sister was rooting for Brazil, but I didn't have a dog in the fight, so I enjoyed watching that game. So I watched that game Saturday, and then yesterday, I jumped in during the penalty kicks. I saw your tweet, so I felt really bad for the English kicker who missed the last the
19-year-old kid, Saka.
Yeah, he was crying, and I was like, I get that, like having all that pressure on you, you don't want to let down your team. According to your tweet, there seems to be like he shouldn't have been put in that position. Is that the argument you're making?
Well, I mean, let's talk about that, and I'll come back to that in just a second, just to let people know it was England scored early in the match in the 3rd minute off a beautiful pass from Trippier over to Shaw, got them up 1-0. They're at home, 60,000 raving English fans there. There were some pockets of Italian fans, but it was pretty much all English in Wembley, and we'll talk about the crashing of the barriers in a little bit. But it was huge, and then near right around the 70th minute, Italy tied this thing up and then eventually won it on penalty kicks. It was very clear that after England scored first, they kind of sat back a little bit and thought they could absorb the pressure from the Italians and look for the counterattack. And this is where people have an issue with how Gareth Southgate does. He's the manager of England, has his tactics, lays out his tactics, puts them in motion. They're not an attacking team, even though they have all this attacking talent. Most of it's sitting on the bench in Grealish and Jordan Henderson and in Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Marcus Rashford. So you got all this talent on the bench. Saka, who we brought in eventually, Jadon Sancho as well. So this was the frustrating part as you were watching as an England fans, like, let's go create something. And he kept Harry Kane on the pitch when Harry Kane was clearly too slow to be playing against these Italians. And it ended up going all the way to penalty kicks because there was no impetus for England to score. There seemed to be no real, aggressive desire to score, and that put him in that position. So we get to the penalty kicks, and the way he laid out the penalty kicks, it was Harry Kane, Harry Maguire, and then it was Jadon Sancho, Rashford, and Saka. And the thing is, he had brought in Sancho and Rashford in the last minute of the game, in the 118th, 119th minute, and they were cold, they weren't warm, they weren't in the rhythm of the game at all. And people were like, "Oh, you could do it." Bullshit. It's a final. It's a final in front of your home fans, and the pressure. You haven't won a trophy since 1966, and people are like, "Oh, well, they weren't there to miss those spot kicks from back in the 90s." Sure, but if your mom and your dad and your cousins and your friends and every fan in England is constantly reminding you of England's mistakes on penalty kicks, the pressure gets to you, and if you're cold, you start overthinking, or maybe you're not warmed up enough to take the shot. So for me, I thought he put these players in a bad position, and Gareth Southgate said that he made the decisions. Some other people were saying, these players went to the manager and said they wanted to take the shot. No, Gareth said it was his decision. I think him putting a 19-year-old kid as the anchor and the pressure-filled spot in the 5th position there was a colossal blunder by a manager. You've got Raheem Sterling. You've got other players on there that could have taken the penalty kick. Putting it on the kid, I think, was just a massive mistake. Put Rashford there, who's got way more years on him, or have some of these other England players step up who are older than 19 years old and have the nuts to take the penalty kick and take the hit. So I think that's where a lot of people are upset about what Gareth Southgate did, because he put the kid in a pretty bad position. And of course, the last 3 players to kick were black players. And unfortunately, there's been a tirade of racism against these players for missing the 3 penalties that they missed, because they could have tied it up had Saka hit it and then gone into sudden death penalties. But Saka missed it, of course. But there's just a bunch of racial abuse came after these people. It just seemed like a bad situation overall, the way Southgate did this thing. Yeah, talk to me.
In your opinion, was England the more talented team?
Yes, I think England was the more seasoned, experienced, and talented team. Nobody outside of the boot in Italy thought Italy was going to win this
Really?
thing.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Even though they had been coming into the final, they had won 33 games in a row. Nobody thought coming into the Euro that they were going to actually do, because they didn't even qualify for the World Cup last time. This is Italy, which is a world power in football. So a lot of people really didn't think that a kind of inexperienced younger Italy team, even though they have Chiellini on there, was going to put it together to get all the way to the final. I think they would have been happy with just getting out of the group round, getting into the elimination rounds, but they got all the way to the final. And you're playing England at home. How much are the odds against you winning that match? And they somehow found a way to do it. They were the better team overall when you were watching them. They were more explosive, more vibrant, more fun to watch. They played a more attractive brand of football. And I think they deservedly won this thing in the end, even though it went to penalties.
So they were big underdogs going in, for sure.
Yeah. A lot of people felt they were underdogs going into this situation.
England has a history of losing underdogs.
Yes.
Last one being the Revolutionary War. A bunch of farmers, a bunch of colonials who didn't have a chance against a great English army.
What are you doing right
Look
now?
what happened. They take people. They don't take people. They don't respect people enough to take them seriously. That's what happens. You lose to underdogs. I love it.
You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous.
Did you watch the Copa? Did you watch the Brazil-Argentina game?
I did. I watched the Brazil-Argentina game. I thought Brazil blew a couple opportunities themselves to kind of, be in a good position. And there are 3 players on that team that are Liverpool players. So in the first time in the history of my life, I was cheering for Brazil. I've never cheered for Brazil. And as a South American, I just have never cheered for Brazil, or the parents of South American. And that's, but I was, but Argentina, Messi would not be denied.
Yeah.
I mean, he was talking shit during penalty kicks in the last game. So he would not be denied, man.
You could tell they looked like they just wanted a little bit more. Honestly, they wanted to win it for Messi. And that was I'm not a big soccer watcher, but at the bar I was ordering food, watching the game. I was like, it just kind of looked like they wanted it a little more.
Yeah, that's always going to be the difference. And sometimes with Brazil, they're so technically great. They're so fantastic as players that they kind of get cocky and think it'll eventually happen. Like they'll find their moments. And when they're playing someone like Argentina, which is essentially the Joker to their Batman, or vice versa, they're so evenly matched almost all the time that you just never know what's going to happen. So I was really surprised that 1-0 was the final. I thought for sure it would be a more high scoring final between those two offensive teams in Brazil and Argentina. But
because Argentina scored pretty early in the first quarter, and my sister and her husband were like, Brazil's going to come back and tie it up. They were pretty confident, and didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we look at some of the, as I was saying, the FA condemned some of the racist abuse against Marcus Rashford, Saka, and Sancho. They went the Instagram and Twitter went after these accounts that were leaving these messages, and they canceled their accounts. They banned their accounts. They kicked them off social media. But people creating an account for with one follower to leave terrible comments. That's just how they live their life. But they'll be handling that. It's a sad thing about the game that you're going to have racism against black players. It is not just an American issue. It is an issue all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. So dealing with this kind of high pressure situation, and the Brits can be quite racist when they want to be. That's for damn sure. So, and even the Prince came out, Prince Andrew came out with Kate to speak against the racism. And of course, he got immediately called out for like, hey, what about Meghan Markle, guys? So it's a lot of moving pieces for this situation. But also another side of this, though, JT, there was some madness that went on before the game. I think there was like 4,000 fans who were trying to get into the arena without a ticket. And they've got footage here. Let's take a look at some of this footage here. These are the stewards trying to hold back these people here who are coming through the gates, and they ran through the perimeters. And I don't know, look at these guys, but like it's a lot to ask.
Powers and numbers, I guess, huh?
Right, thousands of people who were coming in here into the arena to like storm the situation. So this
was before the game. They're just trying to get
before the game. And that is a little scary on so many levels. And I think there was even some more of them actually inside the stadium and the madness that they were pulling off in the stadium as well. Yeah.
I love football. I love the Patriots. I love basketball. I've never seen the kind of craziness soccer fans go through. Yeah. But they're another level of fan. It's like a religion out there.
It is.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I watched that Maradona documentary on HBO.
Yeah, good documentary, right?
Great documentary. And to see how much it means to these countries, it's crazy. Like I was there when the Patriots beat the Falcons. I went nuts. But I was there when Malcolm Butler got the interception against the Seahawks. Right. I went crazy. But even the craziness I went to in those moments are nothing compared to what these soccer fans go through, man. It's another level.
Yeah, you were not going to storm the Capitol. Or storm the.
That's a different kind of fan.
Yeah, sorry about that. But are you seeing this?
I saw this video. This was disturbing. What is going on here?
Look at this. This is like a bad rave concert from the 90s.
I'm not seeing anything now. It says
are you not seeing it? Oh, my bad.
Now I am.
Yeah, there it is.
I saw this earlier. So what's going on here? They want to punch fans on their way out? Is that
these are fans trying to get in, and they're being punched by these other English fans because they're I think they're supposedly trying to help the stewards to try to stop these English fans from coming in. But look, they found this excuse to kick the shit out of their own fans. It's just kind of crazy.
That's crazy. That's what I'm saying. They're on the same side, sport-wise, and they're still fighting each other. Like, what is going on?
I don't know, man. And here, this is the worst. And one guy rolled in there with a baby. With a baby, which is I don't know.
They thought it would protect him, maybe.
I don't know. This poor man here, look at him. He's being kicked and pummeled. I mean, this is terrible, terrible behavior from the English fans. And as I said before and as I said on Twitter when I posted about this, like, this is not the only country that does this, but England gets highlighted for this stuff because they actually try to stop it. And when they try to stop it, that's when the cameras come out because conflict leads to conflict. So it's an unfortunate situation on so many levels, for sure. Yeah, Montreal. Motoranta saying Montreal trashed the city after one win in the Stanley Cup Finals. Just one win,
not even the Jesus.
Yeah, and apparently they were in the aisles as well of the stadium. So after 7:30 p.m. in the game, in certain sections of the stadium, you couldn't even leave your seat because the aisles were cluttered with how many people that had broken in without tickets to see this final. And you broke in to see them lose. Like, that's the worst part of this whole thing, is that you violate all this shit just to see them blow it on penalties yet again.
That's amazing.
You got to done it at your house.
You get like an 80-inch TV for $400 now at Walmart. What are you doing? Why are you rushing the damn stadium? God dang.
It's so true. It's so true. But people want to be there, man. People want to feel it. And I had some people reach out who are British fans of mine who were at pubs outside the stadium saying that it was really great when they first got there. Everyone was very supportive and happy, and then it got crazy. He said then it got nuts.
How did they react to the loss? Because usually they riot after they win.
Yeah.
Did they riot after they lost this time? Or were
they lit fireworks inside the stadium after they lost. So it was a nutty situation.
That must have been a miserable place to be last night.
And some of the press were in there with the fans. Wow. That's the crazy part of it all. So I'd have been going nuts in that situation. Jesus. Let's get to some of these Streamlabs and Super Chats. And please keep sending them in, ladies and gentlemen. As I showed you there, the address right above JTE. He said it's also pinned in the chat for you to send in support here. Tim Sims said football did not come home. It actually went to Rome. Another year added to England's pain. Tim enjoying this a little bit down there in Houston. You're right about that. And one of the Italian players actually went into the camera with the cup and said in Italian, "It's not coming home," or started singing the song, "It's not coming home," to kind of make fun of the Brits. So, which if you know that song, it's actually making fun of the Brits itself. So people have co-opted the song. It's weird. Anyway, Tim Sim also said, long story short, JT, England was in control for the first half. Italy came back in the next half, and Gareth did not adjust enough to counter back. Yeah, basically that. Some people were super mad at me for bringing that up or calling him a clown on Instagram. And I'm like, they're like, oh, he took us to a final. They took us to semis. Who gives a shit? Like, with this talent, that's the least he could have done, was to take him to those places. He's got to win the big ones, because in the World Cup 2 years ago, they also went up 1-0 against Croatia and then lost 2-1 in the semifinals because Gareth Southgate is terrible at in-game management, kind of like Budenholzer is sometimes for the Bucks. So
on the plus side, Ted Lasso comes back next week.
It does. It's right.
Yeah, maybe that'll ease the pain.
On an even bigger plus side, I got the first few episodes of season 2 sitting in my queue, so I'll be watching that tomorrow.
Lucky.
Until the review for it. I can't wait because it's one of my favorite shows. Before anybody watched it, I watched it. All of a sudden, these people come along loving Ted Lasso.
I'm with you. I saw it when it first. I watched it week to week.
Yeah.
I was like, this show's great.
Yeah.
So, and then eventually everyone else caught on.
Yeah, everyone else who hated soccer, didn't want to watch a soccer show. All of a sudden, these critics are huge fans of Ted Lasso.
First of all, I like Andy, and I loved that commercial he did where he originally premiered Ted Lasso. Like, I would go back and watch that on YouTube a couple times a year, out of nowhere, because I just thought it was the funniest thing. I like making fun of soccer a little bit, so it was fun for me to watch it because it made fun of soccer a little bit. So I loved it. So when I heard that, I remember when that show got announced, I was like, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be this good though. Like I definitely didn't have that high expectations for it, but it was one of my favorite shows last year.
Yeah, it is. And it rightfully deserves all kinds of credits and love for the award. So I'm just busting the balls of other critics. I'm happy they came aboard, or else it wouldn't be getting any recognition. And there are plenty of shows that people love that never get any kind of recognition when it comes to award shows. So certainly it's touched a nerve in a positive way for a lot of people, and that's a good thing. Tim Sim also said, do you think Gareth Southgate needs to stay as England's coach for next year's World Cup in Euro 2024? No, I do not. He's a Ted Lasso coach. Bullshit. He is not a Ted Lasso coach, Tim, that understands the players but needs more time to finally succeed. He's not, Tim. When one of the players, Jack Grealish, when they asked him, do you think Jack Grealish is upset that you substituted him out after you had substituted him in? He basically said, I don't care if he is. That's my decision. That's not a player's coach, ladies and gentlemen. That's a guy who thinks he's in control of everything. And wants to lord his authority a little bit over the players. So I would not say that he's a Ted Lasso coach in any, other than the fact that he blows it when he has a chance to win it, like Ted Lasso did in season 1, maybe. Tim Sim also said, also after the Euros and Copa America, which teams do y'all see as early favorites for FIFA World Cup 22 in Qatar? Yeah, JT, who's your favorite for the World Cup?
USA, baby.
That's right. Well said, brother. Well
USA.
Said. Well said.
All the way.
We barely beat Haiti last night, but yeah. No, I still think England is absolutely in the conversation for sure. Now Italy, you have to put in the conversation. France is still in the conversation, even though they went out in that surprising loss to Switzerland. So those are my 3 right now, and can never count out the Germans either. So, and the Belgians, if they have one more run left in them to maybe overturn that narrative that they can't get it done with this new golden generation, that's a possibility. All right, Hill Nellum said Southgate should have put in Rashford and Sancho in earlier and extra time at least, yes, and had them go against the match, slower, older defense instead of just laying back. Saka's my dude, though. I hope this doesn't affect him mentally in his career going forward. It's a great point, Hill. Saka, 19 years old, he was crying his face off at disappointment and shame of missing the penalty kick. But to his credit, everybody rallied around him on that pitch. All the players did. A lot of the pundits did. In times past, JT, in the 90s or early 2000s, you get raked over the coals for missing a penalty in a critical moment. Now there's more sympathy and more understanding. We understand that mental health is an important part of sports. And so the reaction was very positive from the team and from the fans. The pundits and some of the fans, not all the fans, clearly.
I always think of the 2 Escobars, 30 for 30.
Oh, God, yeah.
The guy hit a soccer ball into the wrong goal.
Yeah.
And he was killed for it. It's horrible.
Soccer is crazy, man.
Yeah.
They don't happen fights happen in the NFL stadium.
Yeah.
But it ain't like this.
It ain't like that.
No, it ain't kind of this kind of match. Thank you, Hill. Appreciate your donation, brother, man. All right. And please remember to hit that like button as we go along, ladies and gentlemen. It's really important. Got 85 y'all watching us live. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all hitting that like as we move along. So let's move on to the Conor McGregor situation here, JTE. Dustin Poirier won their quote-unquote trilogy rematch by TKO after Conor McGregor injured his leg in round 1. He stepped backwards and snapped his ankle. And according to Dana White, he broke his tibia. So they had the surgery yesterday. McGregor says he's recovering from the situation, and he also says that the victory is illegitimate. So their rivalry is not over. Thoughts on that, JT? Do you think it's illegitimate because he broke his ankle in the first round stepping backwards?
He broke his freaking foot like stepping backwards. He never knocked him out. He didn't submit him.
Right.
To me, it's let me get this thing repaired and let's do it again next year, because I don't think if I'm the guy who beat him, I'm not going to feel like I really won.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to feel like you really won that. He didn't break his leg. He stepped. What a freak injury, by the way. Usually when UFC, it's usually when a guy's kicking another guy's shin or something.
Right.
He breaks his leg like that. To see him break it just by stepping backwards is bizarre.
Yeah. Let's take a look at it here. Let me rewind it back.
It's pretty bad. Oh my God.
Right there.
Oh!
Not for the tender-hearted here, ladies and gentlemen.
So, how's that called a technical knockout? Because what was he
can't get up. That's why
I know, but what's he supposed to do? So how?
Oh,
he didn't inflict it. You know what I mean?
Well, he claims, Poirier does, that he inflicted because he checked one of Conor's kicks and hit his ankle, and he thought he loosened up his ankle so that when he stepped backwards, he broke his ankle, which of course Conor completely disputes and says that didn't happen. But that was a hell of a situation for him to step backwards. But to your point, Poirier said in the post-match interview, I feel a little weird about it. It doesn't feel like I was hoping it would feel when I beat him because I won in this fashion. So he himself even said, I think there will be a fourth fight. And it'll be either in the octagon or in the street because McGregor said he's going to kill me, like he's going to actually kill me. And you don't say that from one man to another. You don't say that in competition. And as Poirier was walking out of the ring, Conor took the microphone from Rogan and said something like, don't gloat on this because your wife is in my DMs. And she was walking by and flicked him off. So this is like next level nonsense, right? That I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen from here. For sure. Yeah.
This is like Mr. T coming to Rocky's statue unveil. And he's like, hey, woman, if you want yourself a real man, why don't you come? I mean, it's getting personal. But this is what McGregor. I mean, I'm not surprised. This is what he does. He puts on a show. I mean, the problem is, like, can McGregor be the same after this? Like, how many bones has he broken? A couple.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
So, the interesting will be is like how long does it take for him to recover, and will he be 100%? Either way, if these two fight again, everyone's going to want to watch it.
Yeah, it's for sure, especially because, like you said, it wasn't a fully satisfying situation for them to end on. If I was Poirier, I'd be sitting outside his hospital room just waiting on him to get better so I can come in and finish the job. Because that, to me, I mean, saying that shit about his wife and stuff, that's just a little too far, to be honest with you. Saying, she's in my she slid into my DMs and all this kind of stuff. It's not what you do. He said your wife is in my DMs. Hey, baby. And then he was waving at her. So, you're right. That's Mr. T level shit. That's you just don't do that in this situation. But Joe Rogan got on the ground to get the interview with him. And,
I saw that.
Yeah, and it was a little crazy. McGregor claimed I was boxing the bleeding head off him and kicking the bleeding leg off of him. This is not over. If I have to take this outside with him, I'll go outside. I don't give a bollocks. And he said there was no check when Poirier claimed there was a check on his foot. He said not one of them was checked. Your wife is in my DMs. Hey, baby, hit me back up on the chat later on. Jesus Christ. He goes, we'll be at the after party, the Win nightclub, baby. And then he said something pretty disrespectful and then said, F him. So this is madness. And Poirier said, there's no holds barred with the trash talk. Murder isn't something you clown around with. There's no coming back from that. And this guy was saying he was going to murder me. And all kinds of stuff. He was telling me he was going to kill me tomorrow and that I was going to leave in a coffin. You don't talk like that to people, man.
Mean, listen, I've seen Mike Tyson tell people, "I'll eat your children."
That's right. Not people. He told Lennox Lewis, "I will eat your children."
I'll eat your children. This is like I've seen crazier, man.
Yeah.
So this is just this is par for the course, man.
Yeah, exactly. In any competitive sport, it's some crazy situations going on. But the crazy part of this is Ronda Rousey tweeted about this and said,
really?
Shout out to you, Conor McGregor, for already promoting the next fight while you're injured on the ground.
Good point.
And I was like, I didn't even think they would look at it that way, right? But shout out to Ron. But this is what Conor has, the promotion. Conor does the promotion. Win or lose, people come to see Conor win or lose. He is the attraction. He is the reason you are doing the things that you are buying these pay-per-views. You're getting into these situations and watching him. So, I don't know. Maybe some of us can take a hint from that. I don't know. It's the right thing to do, but that's his approach to the situation. Let's see here. And Patrick G donated a little, a Streamlab here. He said, thoughts on Stephen A. Smith's Ohtani comments. Yeah, JT, did you see this? Stephen A. Smith speaking out about one of the premier players in baseball right now.
I heard him apologize. I saw him apologize for something, and I was like,
of course.
I don't even know what he's apologizing for. What did he say exactly? What was the situation?
He was speaking about Shohei Ohtani, and he said, what did he say? He said something like, he said, even though baseball is an international sport, and I totally get that, it's played in the United States and Canada, that's where Major League Baseball is being played. So when I'm looking at it from this perspective. In the United States of America, when you talk about the sport of Major League Baseball, you talk about its lack of diversity in African Americans. You talk about the influx of foreign players. If you're a star and you need an interpreter, that might have something to do, not everything, because there's a lot more things that go into it, but that might have something to do with your inability to ingratiate yourself with that young demographic to attract them to the sport. And he lashed out at Rob Manfred's inability to get baseball to appeal to younger demographics, saying that the sport, quote, is always last to the party. And Ohtani has hit 33 home runs. He's got a 3.49 ERA on the mound through 13 starts. He's incredible baseball player. And he says, he kept going, but the fact that you get a foreign player that doesn't speak English that needs an interpreter, believe it or not, I think that contributes to harming the game in some degree when that's your box office appeal. It needs to be somebody like Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, those guys. And unfortunately, at this moment in time, that's not the case. Now, I just think that's a stupid thing to say, because this is there have been, what are you going to say? Like Dirk Nowitzki should be, there's just madness to me on so many levels on this. Who cares if he needs an interpreter? Who cares of all this? That isn't what separates somebody from, how many people are superstars who are from another country and come over to this country and are just like, they just become huge stars. Schwarzenegger is not American. There's so many people who have come over. So, it just is a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah, I think it's pretty dumb. I would almost find that more interesting to see like somebody, to have a player to be that good who doesn't speak English. It's something different. I think the biggest thing here is baseball is just not as popular as it used to be. Yeah. Whereas the football and even hockey and NBA, one star player could really stand out. Yeah. Whereas baseball is such a team sport at times, it's hard to really kind of, unless you're hitting home runs like Sammy Sosa back in the day with McGuire, unless you're just, a home run king, it's hard to really kind of stick out. Like someone says that baseball player is great at defense. I'm like, okay. Yeah. He's good at running after the ball. Right. So for me, pitchers obviously maybe get a little bit more publicity because they're standing there alone. They're the one who's there for every play. Yeah. So I think it's more of just a bigger problem of baseball being kind of an old sport and it's not as exciting as the new ones.
There's no star. You've got stars, but they don't have that personality, the character.
Yeah. There's the LeBron James of the MLB.
There really isn't, And so when you actually do have a star in your league, as a sports commentator, especially one where your boss has a contract with that league for you to go after the star players that league for nothing more than just needing an interpreter to speak. I've seen him defend people who have unsavory stuff on their resume legally. He has defended them in some way, but the fact that Ohtani needs an interpreter is somehow a crime or is somehow a detriment to baseball's popularity. It's got nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. And Keith Olbermann, who I'm not always on the side of, I think he called him out correctly. He said, I've supported Stephen A. Smith when he's been big at ESPN and when he hasn't and when he's been right and when he's been wrong. But this about Shohei Ohtani is straight up racism at a time of dangerous anti-Asian violence. This requires an apology and a suspension now. And he said, and I think he's right about this, especially when you factor in Stephen A. Smith and how he's defended black players all throughout in any league. He's been very adamant about that, and rightfully so. He said, Oberman said, imagine something even vaguely like this said about any black athlete or female athlete or even an athlete who doesn't speak to the media by anybody else. The commentator would have been fired by now for sure. Yeah, JT, think about if someone said this about Big Papi. Papi didn't have the best English, man. And so, right, but people loved him because he was a big, cuddly bear. And so, if someone had said this about Big Papi, people would lose their fucking minds.
Yeah, I need to go. Did he apologize?
Not yet. He has not apologized that I see.
I thought I saw him tweet something about a semi-apology, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I need to go look into it more, but it sounds like he's wrong here. No, every which way you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, he attempted to clarify his comments on his Twitter. He released a 2-minute video about it, trying to explain it.
Really?
But it seemed that he was trying to explain why he was racist, and so it's just like you're not solving the problem here, guy. You're not solving the problem.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you pay a guy $6 million who's used to living on his controversial takes. He's got to keep pushing the boundaries, or else people are going to say he's boring. And that's the unfortunate situation you have here with Stephen A. Smith. Look, the man earns his money. I'm not going to disrespect him. You get paid what you can get paid, but the expectation is mad. Like we're seeing with Tucker Carlson. That fool's getting paid buku bucks. He's the face of Fox News now. And now he's claiming that the NSA is spying on him so they can take his 8 p.m. slot. He's just got to keep upping the ante of madness, or else people aren't going to, be supporting him.
And baseball has a pretty good history of having international players come play. Mm-hmm. From whether it be from Asia or Dominican Republic, kind of like this is it feels like an old argument that somebody would have made like 20 years ago. It's weird.
Yeah, exactly. And someone brought up the video of him making fun of the Nigerian basketball players, like not being able to say their names. And you're a sports commentator, son. Give me that job. I'll gladly memorize names and shit like that. So, anyway, let's move on. Steve, got no more Streamlabs. Keep sending them in, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a little more time left in the show. JT, I want to move on to this Becky Hammon story, brother, man. This was Becky Hammon, of course, was passed over for these head coaching jobs so far. And, of course, Orlando, we're going to get to that. Orlando signed a head coach recently, but she was passed over for these head coaching positions. And she was speaking with Jabari Young of CNBC, and she was asked about these interviews and whatever. And she said when she wasn't selected, asked about the fact that you weren't picked to be the head coach of any of these NBA teams. She says, I'm not mad. This is the business, and it's a very competitive business. But at the end of the day, throw everything out the window. If you want to hire me, you'll find a reason to hire me. And if you don't want to hire me, you'll find that reason too. And that's just that. And she was very magnanimous and said, I take each experience and I try to grow from it, learn from it, and get better for the next time. And when they brought up, JT, this idea that maybe the Blazers had used her as a bit of a smokescreen to cover up the fact that they were going after Chauncey, who had sexual harassment allegations, unsavory sexual stuff, accusations in the past, she said, if people need to justify a reason to why they did or didn't hire me, it's a little out of my realm of control. I just try to do the best I can in the moment I'm given. JT, reactions, thoughts?
We're not in those rooms during these pitch meetings with these coaches. I don't want to, accuse anybody or say it's a reason, because I don't know what she's never coached. Yeah. She's never been a head coach.
Head coach, right.
Head coach. She's never been a head coach.
Yeah.
I don't know what her pitch is going into these meetings with these general managers. For all we know, she's pitching a great ideas or she's not pitching. So to me, it's a little bit of the unknown. Like, I think she could be a great coach. I think that's possible with a lot of people. Yeah. Someone just has to give her the chance and then we'll actually know. But at the end of the day, I'm not in that room with these GMs and I'm not there to see what her pitch is. Yeah. And so it's like I only have so much information. And without all the information, it's hard to make a real kind of stance on it.
Okay. All right. I like what she had to say. And I think she's straight up. Like she said, throw everything out the window. If you want to hire me, you'll hire me. And if you don't, you don't. I think that's actually fair. We've seen people with way less qualifications get hired to be coaches in the NBA or retreads like Stan Van Gundy, who are still living off what he did with a premier player like Dwight Howard and still living off that as a reputation and shit in the bed everywhere he goes. So you're seeing that multiple times. You're seeing unproven assistant coaches get head coaching positions. So I wonder if this is still a little bit the old school misogyny that goes on, or the old school sexism rather, goes on for Becky Hammon, because we're about to get to the Orlando coach. That guy doesn't excite me in any way, shape, or form to take over the Orlando Magic the way Becky Hammon would, though I wouldn't wish the Orlando Magic as a job on Becky Hammon. So I wonder if this is a situation where, this is all happening and then Popovich is eventually going to hand over the reins to her of the Spurs, like a lot of people feel Eric Reed is going to, or Andy Reid's going to eventually hand the Spurs the reins over to Bieniemy. I wonder if that kind of situation is happening here, whether on purpose or accidentally, it seems to be looking like it's pointing in that direction. And I hear you. We don't know her pitch. We don't know what she's done. But I mean, the fact she's one of the top assistants, JT, you got to believe that, Popovich wouldn't have someone around just because he wants a woman around. He would have someone around who's really smart about basketball.
I wonder if some of these teams are just afraid, because I feel like the lens that will be on that team once a female coach gets her first job,
right,
will it distract from the play? I mean, but it has to eventually. Is going to have to happen.
Yeah.
And you're going to get credit for being the team to do it for the first time. I'm just curious, like, what is being said in these meetings that are keeping them back from hiring her? Like, what is
right? And
there's really no way of knowing.
And you got to ask yourself, is Damian Lillard, did he have any input here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely
could he have any input here to be like, I'm not going to play for the first female coach? He's not going to say it. He's not going to put it out in the press, but maybe behind the scenes, whispering it. Did he say anything? I don't know, because he hasn't come out and commented on this in any way, shape, or form. And speaking to Damian Lillard, real quick, as a side thing, JT, I was reading an article today. The Warriors and the Sixers are trying to maybe open the door to Lillard. Could you see Lillard going to the Warriors or the Sixers?
I think he'd be better on the Sixers. You match him up with Embiid, who's you have a great inside-outside game at that point.
Yeah.
The Warriors is kind of interesting. I mean, Lillard and Curry, how do you share the ball between those two, man? Curry was looking so dominant towards the end.
Great point, man.
He was in the MVP. Like, there's always so many shots to go around. Whereas I feel like Philly, he could take over a game and take some ease off of Embiid. And I'd give Ben Simmons for Lillard any day of the week.
Yeah, no doubt. With they'd have to make the numbers work, of course, obviously. But there are possibilities. But the Warriors with Lillard, Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green, that's a scary team, dude.
Yeah,
that's a scary team.
Draymond, here's the thing. Draymond's a little bit. He's getting to his twilight years.
That's true.
He's still a good player, but he can still show out. We don't know what Klay Thompson's going to be.
Yeah, true.
He hasn't played in over 2 years, man.
Right.
I just don't know what we're going to get when he comes back. It might take him a year just to get to normal.
Right.
And then Lillard and Curry are your two main. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of points, but how much defense is that going to get you?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if that works so well. I mean, listen, if you're the Warriors and you get them, of course you do it.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's going to work out.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Another trade rumor that I saw, and I read, I don't know if you saw this one as well, is that John Wall apparently liked someone's Twitter post saying, you should trade, the Clippers should trade for John Wall to bring John Wall to the Clippers. It would require Ibaka re-upping, and then they'd have the money numbers to correlate, because John Wall's getting $40 million next year.
I forgot where John Wall even is right now. Where is he?
He's in Houston.
He's in Houston
with the Rockets.
That's right. He went there with Westbrook, and then Westbrook took off.
Yes.
No, he went there with Harden, and then Harden.
He was traded for Westbrook.
Yeah,
that was the switch. Yeah.
That's right. I remember now.
Yeah.
Houston is just like that's like the Phantom Zone right now. Nobody's talking about him.
The Clippers could take a trade 4 players for John Wall and a first-round pick. This is what I'm seeing in a number of places. And the proposed trade would be Marcus Morris, Rajon Rondo, Luke Kennard, and Patrick Beverly in exchange for John Wall and Milwaukee Bucks' 2023 first-round pick. I don't know. Your trade Wall averaged 20.6 points, 6.9 assists, 1.1 steals. But that seems dangerous to me to make this move. What do you think?
Yeah, that's tough. You're gutting a little bit of your team there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't do it, because I really think the Clippers had both of their stars healthy. They would have won the whole thing, probably.
Yeah.
At least made it to the finals. I think they would have beat Phoenix if they had Kawhi. So I don't think you need that big of a shakeup, honestly.
Yeah.
Reggie Jackson, let's see what happens with Reggie Jackson too. So.
Yeah, right. In terms of the signing, if they're going to do that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very, very true.
I say Lillard, come to Boston. I don't. Take a price cut. Do whatever you got to do. Come on over.
Get out of here. What's wrong with you? The Bulls and Raptors are talking about Fred VanVleet. That's a possibility as well. But the Timberwolves seem really interested in Ben Simmons. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why.
He doesn't want to go there. He's going to be like Kevin Love in Cleveland. He'll just be an afterthought.
Well, the team's already full of underachievers. Why are you going to bring another one in? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's true.
Ugh, I just wouldn't do that.
Although I think Minnesota's pretty bad defense, so Ben Simmons is good at defense.
So you think he might change the culture defensively? Yeah, maybe. That's a possibility. But I just, if I'm Simmons, I don't know why I would go there or make that happen. Alex Tornai says, as a Bulls fan, Lillard with Levine would be a ridiculous backcourt. Sadly, this will never happen. Thank God. For 2K, LOL.
2K.
Yeah, 2K. Yeah,
I mean, 2K. You can do whatever you want.
That's for sure. Let's see here. I've got any more Streamlabs real quick before we move on. I do not, but thank you to Bolivar Fajardo for following the Outlaw Nation or subscribing to the Outlaw Nation. Appreciate that, dude. So let's move on to this other. Let's move on actually to your NFL story here. We'll move to mine after that. N'Keal Harry, wants to be traded from the New England. His agent said, I mean, is N'Keal Harry in a position to be demanding a trade from the Patriots here? JT, he said, for the past several months, I've been working in cooperation with the Patriots behind the scenes. This is his agent to put a plan in place to allow N'Keal to thrive in New England through 2 seasons. He has 86 targets, which obviously hasn't met the expectations the Patriots had. Yeah, what do you think? I mean, this is madness. So where is he going to go?
I think I remember him catching 1 ball of significance last year. It's hard to say, because he didn't get to play with Brady really.
Yeah, true.
Long.
Very good point.
He got Cam Newton, who was not very accurate last year. But he doesn't have any explosiveness off the line. And he's been dealing with a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
They drafted him because of his ability with what he could do after he catches the ball.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be one of these receivers. Once you catch the ball, he's not easy to bring down. He has some speed. But you have to catch the ball in order to do something with the ball.
True.
Listen, also, I'm not going to be a homer here. The Patriots haven't had the best wide receiver corps when it comes to like training up players.
True.
And making them elite wide receivers. That has not been a strength for Belichick for some reason.
Yeah.
I watched Seattle Seahawks, and who's he throwing to that's been killing it the last 2 years?
Oh, DK Metcalf. Yeah.
Yes, we could have had Metcalf over. We took Harry over Metcalf.
Oh my God.
And I know that. And every time I watch these highlights of Metcalf, I'm like, oh my God, we got Harry. Oh Jesus. It's been painful. Listen, I like the moves they made, and we're going to more of a tight end running, wide receivers this year with Hunter Henry and Juno Smith, and we got some Al Galore from the Raiders. So, if we could get something of like any value, let him go.
Yeah,
it hasn't worked. I don't think it's going to work. Apparently, Cam Newton likes him. I guess that's one good thing.
Okay,
but Cam Newton's not going to be the quarterback much longer.
Yeah,
we'll see how good of a season he has. I wouldn't be shocked if Mac Jones at some point of the season comes in, and we got to see what we have there.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, he can. Cam Newton can post all the Instagram posts he wants. At the end of the day, it just feels like they're eventually going to slide Mac Jones into that spot this year.
Oh
yeah. It doesn't feel like that's not going to happen. So,
but sorry, N'Keal Harry. I was excited when we drafted him.
Yeah,
he has not. I can't think of one play where I was like cheering or excited. Like anytime he caught a decent ball, I was just like, oh yeah, he's still on the team.
That's right, he's still there.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Let's move on to our next one, and that is for the Washington football team. JT, get your thoughts on this. President of the Washington football team, Jason Wright, spoke about the idea of having the Warriors be the name for the Washington football team. I was a fan of that. I like the idea. But it seems like that is not the route they're going to go. They did some internal polling and some external polling and conversations and brought people in, Native American representatives in to have these conversations about how they're going to go forward. And he's making it very clear that they want to move forward with, quote, no ties to Native American imagery. They consider that to be the right path. And he was very grateful to the Native American community leaders who came in. And he was asked about the Warriors nickname. He said, one might look at this name as a natural and even harmless transition, considering that it does not necessarily or specifically carry a negative connotation. But as we learned through our research and engagement with various groups, context matters, and that makes it a slippery slope. Feedback from across communities we engaged in clearly revealed deep-seated comfort around the name the Warriors, saying that it aligns too closely with Native American themes,
Yeah,
and such an embrace would not represent a clear departure that many communities have forcefully advocated for us to embrace. So this is one of the first real direct statements from the Washington football team that they are not going to have Native American imagery, any allusion to Native American imagery as part of the next step for them. Yeah.
I would hope that's kind of where they were going. You don't just want to take a lateral move. If you're going to make a name change, make a full one that's not going to have any issues.
Right.
Yeah.
I like the idea of moving past it. I mean, I like the Warriors as a way to kind of middle ground, but I think Jason Wright is absolutely correct. And I'm encouraged.
1 second.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man. And I'm encouraged about hearing the team say, uh-oh. That's a good dog dad there. That's a good dog dad.
I think he pulled the leg muscle, so he doesn't want to jump, so I have to help him up.
I love that he sits there and waits till you've had the time to come. He'll be here eventually. But anyway, I love the idea that they're moving away from it. So now it opens the door to a lot of possibilities that I hadn't considered before. Because I thought because they kept essentially the same color scheme that they were going to try to bring some kind of Native American imagery back.
Really?
But it's very clear that they're not. So now my question is, where are we going to go? What are the names being considered? I wish they'd give the fans a little idea or a little insight into what they are looking at, because, I don't want wizards, man.
Did they I'm so sorry, but you said they're trying to keep the same color scheme, right?
Yeah, no, they have kept the same color scheme. I don't know if they're going to keep the same color scheme going forward.
I think they'll keep a similar color scheme.
Yeah,
it'll just be absolutely different. It'll be absolutely different name that has nothing to do with anything that could get him in this position again. Yeah. I would be shocked if it was something like the Warriors. It's vague. But it looks like they're not even trying to get in the earshot of anything that could be controversial again.
Yep. I suppose I got to applaud them for that, because at least it shows a real clear.
Were you like, I grew up with the Redskins, you're a Redskins fan. Mark Ellis was a Redskins fan.
So were 10 years old.
When they announced like the change of the name, were you like, yes, it's about time, or were you kind of like indifferent to it?
Well, when I first started to hear the rumblings in the 90s, right? I was like, okay, I can hear that. I listened to it, right? But there wasn't a lot of support for it. You didn't you saw the protests, but they weren't like thousands of people. It was like 15, 20 people outside the stadium with signs, and they were kind of disregarded. So if people tell you this is a new issue or woke culture, they're idiots, because it's been going on for decades. People, Native American representatives and people's issues with the name. And it's not like the owner of the team, George Marshall, doesn't have a history of being a super racist. He does. They were the last team to integrate in the NFL. So that tells you, just like Boston was the last MLB team to integrate in baseball, the Redskins were the last team to integrate in the NFL. So they have a bad history of racism and what have you in their history. So to me, I always was like, okay. And if they want to change it, it felt as I was going into the 2000s, like I'm in support of this, because a name is just a fucking name. It's not that big of a deal. Like, people change, or teams change names all the time. The Ravens were the Browns. It's not a big deal in my opinion overall. And I'm a hardcore since 10 years old. I saw us win Super Bowls, man. So if I'm telling you the name change doesn't bother me, it really doesn't bother me. So
I think the most important thing is it's Washington, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the important part.
Yeah,
right?
If the New England Patriots change their names to New England, I don't know, Buffaloes or whatever, some weird different name. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they would call them, but it would be weird for me. It would be weird. Yeah. Okay. But as long as it's New England, that's all that would really matter to me.
Well, there's an arrogance to that name. That's an entire section of the country, man. It's not even one city or one state. It's like a whole fucking section of the country.
That's true. Yeah, it's because we're a bunch of little states. You have to team up.
Did you get it when it was when you heard about them wanting the name? Did you go like that makes sense?
Oh, no, I totally understood it. Okay, I was just curious, like as someone who's not a Redskins fan,
right.
I 100% agree they should change the name, and I'm just curious, like as a Redskins fan, if you grew up Redskins fan, it's a little bit more of a struggle for you because you have so many things tied to that. But you know, at the end of the day, it's about the state that the city's in really more than the made up name they came up with.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Made up name. Alex Stornai says, Rocha, would you be okay with the team sticking with simply the WFT? No, I don't. I know you kind of like it, and I don't mind it. It's certainly grown on me. I'm not going to lie to that, Alex. Or is it a cop-out in your mind? Do you want a new name? Yeah, it's a cop-out because it's a bookmark, and it's so nondescript that you can't hold on to it. Like, you can't go, yes, Washington football team. You know, it just feels like something from like that movie Leatherheads with George Clooney. It doesn't feel like you know, this is a time of having mascots, having names for your team, having nicknames for your team, like the Pats. You know, those are important. The Skins, right? Those are important to have. The Fins, those are important to have in connotation with merchandising, whatever. WFT just doesn't get it done, man. In my opinion, that's not.
What would if there had to be an animal?
Oof, Jesus.
What animal would it be? Washington can't do Eagles.
No, which would have been the choice. I guarantee you that would have been a consideration. I've seen senators out there, which I really don't want.
I mean, they can't be animals.
No, but they can be sometimes, depending on some of their opinions.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I don't think I want that kind of the political connotation.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that either
nowadays. You know.
Yeah,
but there's no real. I don't know if there's any animals that are necessarily, you know,
Washington.
Washington based.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's tough.
I mean, the Generals. I don't like the Generals because there used to be a terrible USFL team called the Washington Generals. I don't know.
Was it Commandos out there too at some point?
Commandos. I don't mind, but that's still a warrior thing.
Sounds like a 13-year-old.
Yeah, right.
Came up with like Commandos.
Sounds like one of those indoor football league teams.
Totally, like an arena team. Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough. I can't wait to see what they finally decide on.
Yeah,
and I hope you like it.
The Washington Turkeys. Somebody said no. Sentinels. Ben Frank. That's a whole other thing. Somebody said Washington. J&B said Washington War Dogs. No, I don't know what it's going to be, but I've heard monuments.
Warhawks ain't
bad. I've heard some people have come out and said they want them to be the Red Tails, but I don't want that because it's a connotation. I mean, they've got a terrible history of racism. Embracing a black connotation to me is a cop-out. It's a way of trying to shield themselves from criticism. I think that's bullshit in my opinion. Washington Wolfpack, that I like. That I can get behind. The Wolfpack, that's strong. That's strong.
I can see a W with like fur on it a little bit.
Little NWO Wolfpack. I'm down with that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's right. Washington Thick was the one that Jay and Winston came up with. Which I appreciate.
That's tough.
So we'll see. I mean, there was a list of a shit ton of names. I think Cleveland's got their work cut out for them because a lot of people I'm seeing online are okay with Cleveland Spiders, and that seems like it'd be a terrible choice for an MLB team.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it seems like a team for a AA league. Let's move on to a little more NBA news here, JT, as we wrap up the show. The Magic are expected. This is a report coming from Wojciechowski, Woj Bomb here, saying that the Orlando Magic are expected to hire Dallas Mavericks assistant Jamahl Mosley as their next head coach. This is confirmed by the Athletics' Shams Charania. You know, Shams always got the knowledge here. Mosley's 42. He worked 7 years on Rick Carlisle's staff. He is a black man. He was his top lieutenant and associate head coach. He developed a strong reputation for player development and built a good relationship with young star Luka Doncic. He will be coming in to a team that is in full rebuild mode after their trades of Vucevic and Evan Fournier last season. So do you like this? You've got Chuma Okeke, Markel Fultz, Cole Anthony, Mo Bamba, Jonathan Isaac. They're all 23 years old or younger. Do you like this move for him? Do you think this is right? And with Luka being such a good fan of his, is Luka a jump to Orlando possible down the road? What do you think?
I mean, to me, it's a job. You know, I'm sure not every coach in the NBA is looking to jump into.
True.
You know, I don't know. Again, he probably just had the best pitch, and they're like, you know, he's coming from a successful organization like Dallas. But who knows what Orlando? All they do is rebuild, blow up, rebuild, blow up. So, they might be rebuilding to our blow up. So we'll see what happens.
Aaron Gordon remembers. Yeah, exactly. That's the way. But I think this is a smart decision by them if he's Carlisle's top assistant. And clearly Jamahl didn't want to have anything to do with these Mavericks and move on to another situation, considering all the drama that's going on there. We saw Carlisle move on to Indiana. He looks like a changed man in the interviews. He looks so happy. He looks so relaxed, and it's just like, wow. So
I mean,
shit
if you're
must be crazy.
If you're going to Orlando, man, you don't have to. You're not like you have a lot of pressure on you.
That's true.
It's a good job security. You know they're going to give you a few years at least.
Yeah, that's true. To try to see if you can work it out for sure. And Steve Clifford certainly had a long time to figure out himself. So we shall see. We shall see overall. One last, go ahead, bud.
I like Orlando when they're good. Like I miss those Penny Shack days, man.
Oh man,
they were so much fun. I loved that Orlando team in the '90s, and I liked that Dwight Howard run. I thought that was entertaining. Yeah. So I think I like Orlando. I think it's a fun. The league is a little fun. It's funner when you have that team being really good. I miss those Penny Hardaway days.
Yeah, that is low key one of the best 30 for 30 docs I've ever seen.
Which one?
You haven't seen the one on the Orlando Magic?
Yeah, is it the one where Penny and Shaq sit down?
Yeah, they're sitting down shooting the shit.
I saw that one.
Great documentary.
Great documentary. Yeah,
I love that. Y'all need to take a look at that if you haven't seen that doc yet. That is absolutely the one to watch.
They were so good
for sure. Yeah. So real quick, this just came over the wire. Get your thoughts real quick, JT, on this. Former Chicago Bears quarterback Jay Cutler talked about talk about the hits that he's taken. He was in an interview here with GQ's Clay Skipper, talking about his 12-year career and the numerous hits he took as a quarterback. Asked if he thinks about them, he said, "Oh, absolutely." When he talks about CTE, I would say definitely my memory isn't the same as it was 5 years ago. The amount of concussions I've had are probably in the double digits. It's going to catch up to me at some point. I'm just trying to delay it as soon as possible. Cutler said last month that he suffered 15 concussions as a quarterback for the Bears, Dolphins, and Broncos. Although he does feel healthy, he does think that CTE is coming back at coming for him at some point.
Oh, no.
And he's been trying to adjust his diet and adjust his intake of sugar because of conversations he's had with medical officials about how that can augment CTE or do some, or bring it on even quickly. He said, "I'm trying to cut sugar. Heavy amounts of fish oil have been tied to health in the brain. I'm doing NAD, which is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. I don't know if I said that right. I'm doing it through IVs. NAD is in all cells of the body, the mitochondria, the energy that pushes each cell to function. As you get older, you lose NAD. So I'm doing NAD therapy, which at a core level helps everything in your body. I'm sure Mark Ellis will be doing that next after cryotherapy. I've noticed that that's definitely helped me. Anything I can do these days, I'm trying to get involved in. So what's your reaction to that? 15 concussions?
That's a lot. I think the NFL needs, there should be like a number that if you get this many concussions, you're out of the league or something.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know. I think, the research is still going on, and I don't think they have 100% sure of like how some people get affected, some people don't.
Yeah.
But I think 10, 20 years from now, we'll have a better idea.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe that's where you start to take the steps to
regulating it.
Yeah. And I didn't think about, kicking someone out after 10 concussions or whatever, but it's not a bad idea, man. Maybe just kind of go, okay, that's it. You sit out a year or two, and get watched by medical staff. That's certainly possible. All right, one last news item here, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up, and I don't know how much JT is going to have to say on this, but it's tennis related. Novak Djokovic defeated Matteo Berrettini. At least one Italian lost on Sunday. That was Matteo Berrettini, and he won his 6th Wimbledon championship, but his 20th overall Grand Slam title. He won 6-7. He won the 7-6. He was 6-7, 6-4, 6-4, 6-3. So he lost the first set, then won the next 3 to take him out. 20 Grand Slam titles. A lot of people have started to call him possibly the greatest to ever play the game. Even though you still have Federer and Nadal roaming around out there, Djokovic has always been that kind of fly in the ointment when people have tried to compare Nadal and Federer as like the new Agassi Sampras. It's always been Djokovic kind of hanging out there, also doing his thing. So any thoughts on tennis? Any thoughts on Djokovic in your mind?
I mean, I don't really follow tennis, so not much to say. But listen, if you win 20 of anything in this sport, it's worth, some serious praise.
Consideration. Yeah, and praise as
sure.
well. Absolutely. So, I mean, 20 Grand Slam titles, that is a lot, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
People barely get to double digits who are the great ones. So getting to 20 of them is just mind-blowing to think about overall for sure. All right, let's get on out of here. Oh, did you watch the ESPYs? Anything to comment on the ESPYs?
No, I missed it, but I saw some people saying like they took a shot at Ben Simmons. I think Anthony Mackie did.
Oh, did he really?
That's what I heard. That's the only thing I heard out of it. But I don't know what he said.
He's the new Captain America. Mackie feeling himself a little bit. All right. Fair enough. Well, let's get on out of here, JT. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and we'll have some fun talking. Of course, thank you to all of you for hanging out with us today, and as we talk some sports. Really appreciate the chat being lively and fun and ball busting. Please remember to hit a like on this video as well as you're here as we're wrapping up. We'd appreciate it. All right, JT, where can they find you? What do you got going on? Anything happening?
It's down there at JT Movie Things.
There you go. And how are you, man? Are we doing okay? I mean, we played a hell of a match Friday night. Are you feeling okay?
I felt good. Like I felt like we played really well, and just been catching up on a lot more movies. I watched Tomorrow War.
Oh yeah,
I watched your review.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man.
They go time jumping.
Yeah.
Aliens are found in the ice.
Yes.
Some of the science fiction is crazy.
Yes.
But what the craziest, most outlandish thing was that people were having a party to watch a soccer game, and that they chose a soccer game to announce themselves to the world. Most of America didn't even know what was going on until 2 hours after the Tomorrow people showed up. Why would not the Super Bowl or something that, it wasn't even like the World Cup, was it? I don't remember.
It was Brazil. I know that. It was Brazil taking on somebody. But yeah, you're right about that. In the middle of the day, a get together at a reunion, and it's a soccer game. Seemed kind of in America. It seemed kind of out of place. But
out of place.
I guess they were trying to appeal to an international audience. And I don't know if Chris Pratt, who is the executive producer or one of the executive producers, is a massive fan of football. I don't know.
There you go. It should have been like an NBA playoff game or honestly, it should have been a Super Bowl. But I guess they were trying to get the world's attention. So the
international world. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'll be honest with you, I almost put that in my review. I was this close, but I was like, I'm not going to ding it for that because the fact that they can highlight soccer in any way or football in any way in a major film, I'm okay with. So I didn't put that in my review, but I appreciate you pointing that out. Thanks, brother, man.
No problem.
All right, well there you go. If you didn't watch our match Friday night, it's out there. I think it's out there and still under the pay-per-view for you all to watch. We took on a final exam. It's a fun match. Went all the way down to the last question overall. I think both teams played incredible. It was a hell of a scoreline too. I don't think a lot of teams have put a scoreline together in combo like that in a very, very long time. And you can follow me at the Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram for sure. Make sure you follow me on Twitch as well. The Outlaw Nation. Going to be doing some FIFA 21 play tomorrow for about an hour and a half in the middle of the day. Have a little fun on Twitch. Also dropping a FIFA 22 trailer reaction. They dropped the trailer yesterday, so I got a chance to watch it this morning. Recorded the trailer reaction. Will be up in a little bit for you all to enjoy my reaction. I'm a massive FIFA fan in terms of the soccer game, the video game itself. I've been collecting since 1999. I've been playing since 99, so I'm curious to see what this new hyper motion technology is all about. So look for that later on today. And then please subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that bell button so you know what we got going on here. And that's pretty much it. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Tomorrow night, Paul Preston and Adam Witt on the Outlaw Nation show. So get ready for that. I don't know what's going to happen. So we'll talk to you then. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And come back and join us next week for another brand new episode of Game Time. Peace.